Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Black Mirror Season 3, Episode 2. It's called Playtest. Full spoilers for the episode will follow. So, the premise of this one is that a guy named Cooper is. I say running away from home as if he's a teenager, but he's an adult, but for whatever reason, he's sneaking out of his house and he's going on a sort of long trip. He's going globetrotting. He goes to Australia. We see a montage of him going around India,
Thailand,
Thailand.
India,
Yeah.
Europe.
And he ends up in London. That's his sort of last stop. And a couple of series of events, which we'll get to in a minute, but the general gist of it is that he ends up going to playtest a new video game experience at this company that's sort of out in the middle of nowhere near London,
Yeah, and a nice castle.
and it's a sort of augmented reality style thing. But before we even get to that stuff, because this one actually spends a lot of time before we even get to the idea of the episode, if
It
that makes
was actually
sense.
at a point where I was going, this is a long time where this is normal. There's no sci-fi or anything. It's just very much just, nah, this is today.
Yeah, this is just about a guy who's kind of, because we learn that he's avoiding his mum. His mum keeps calling him on the phone, and he keeps ignoring her. And we do get a bit of backstory once he runs into Dutch from Killjoys. What was her name in this?
Sonia.
Sonia, thank you. She was in season 1 as well, of course.
She was, but only for like 3 seconds.
Yeah, but she popped. They must have liked her because they brought her back.
Huh?
But so they meet up because he's sort of lonely. He's in a pub and he sees like a couple being all smoochy. So he goes on one of his apps and swipes the right way and ends up with Sonia. And it's while they're talking and his mum phones again that he sort of explains what he's kind of hiding from. It's his dad had Alzheimer's, and by the time he died, he didn't even recognise Cooper. You know, he would look at him and not know who he was. He'd look like a stranger, and he doesn't know how to talk to his mum because his mum and him aren't that close. And then going through this is, left him in a really weird place. So it's almost like he was on the run just to avoid talking to her. Which presumably will be months by now if he's went around all these different
I'd
places.
assume so, yeah.
And he, of course, his bank card, his credit card stops working. He tries to take money out of it, and you hear snippets on the phone. It sounds like someone has
Hacked
cloned
his
it, hacked
account,
it,
yeah.
yeah, and they've been spending money elsewhere in a different country. And this is what leaves him with Sonia, who suggests because he's got this app, odd jobs for like just little one-off things you can do for a little bit of money, which he's only trying to make up the amount to get home, and he takes this job at this playtesting gig for this
Hmm.
company. So the whole phone call thing is sort of a theme throughout. It keeps happening, like, and this is the thing is like by the time we get to the playtesting thing, we're a good 25 minutes in, I'd say.
Yeah. And I actually kind of really enjoyed the stuff before as well. Like,
It was good character stuff. They were really building up who this guy was, and they did a really good job of making us be sympathetic. Because no matter what he was doing, there's that moment really early on when he's on the plane before he even like they show us the montage of him going around everywhere, where he sort of like a little girl next to him is scared because of the turbulence, and he sort of says pretend like it's a roller coaster, and he sort of cheers her up and makes her feel better. So
yeah.
right away you sort of you're like, okay, right, he's a good guy, he's an alright guy,
Yeah.
and you're so quickly
Also,
simply I've got that
what I
across.
really, really gave me a chuckle is we spoke on the last episode how it was, or at least I found it weird to have all these Americans on Black Mirror.
Yeah,
And then we got this episode, and you have American come to England, and it's all these like they're joking about British phrases and stuff.
yeah.
And it felt funny after the last one where we were talking about that.
That was a little bit. It was funny watching him and Sonia sort of trade each other's bad accents.
Yeah,
That was amusing. And obviously, there's a theme of games throughout. You see him playing a game on the phone, like on the plane, and you see like Sonia's got like a small collection of video games, including the Thief reboot for some reason.
she said it was for her job, like
She
all of the
did, to be
games. I
fair.
assumed she was some sort of like games journalist or
It
something.
wasn't quite that because she mentioned the first time they spoke, she was talking
They
about.
did, but then I forgot, and I was just like,
Yeah.
okay,
It was like media of some kind, so yeah, maybe games journalism, it might be something kind of in that
yeah.
region. But uh, So it's fed in games throughout, but not like over the top. It was just kind of like, yeah, they're part of this world, but it's not games. Like,
It's the sort of thing where you go to someone's house and there's some games.
yeah, you browse them and you have a look.
Yeah, and or you're on a plane and someone's playing a game.
Yeah.
Like, just happens.
And again, these people, like, Cooper and Sonia, have good chemistry. They both seem quite likable. They joke around together. He makes fun of Marmite, which he should because it's disgusting, vile stuff.
I agree.
Good.
Finally, something we are united on.
And so, yeah, they spend a lot of time building him up and letting us get to know him. And, obviously this phone call thing and his mum's. And I wasn't sure, the first half of this episode, I had no idea what the Black Mirror commentary was because they didn't introduce it yet because it was just character. It was just...
Yeah, I was really like, okay, I know just that this is the gaming one because
Yeah.
and I was like, but how?
But even when he gets to the playtesting, it doesn't immediately come apparent there either because the first thing they have him do is they have him do this little mini game thing where they inject him in the back with this little chip kind of thing that goes in the back of his neck, and it for him shows him augmented reality, so he sees extra things made of graphics, and this little chipmunk looking thing starts popping up from holes in the table, and he plays a bit of the old whack-a-mole,
Yeah, it's a little tech demo.
and he's hitting it and all that, and of course one really important point that happens here is she takes the woman Katie, who's sort of running this for him, takes the phone off of him and turns it off. But he turns it on because he's going to sneak a wee picture, and leak it later for money, because Sonia suggested that. And it's funny actually because I almost thought I was having interference myself in the house because the noise it makes when she's trying to upload the game into the back of his head, and you hear that do. That's the same noise you hear on Skype if someone's got their phone too close to the mic. So it's
it's a classic audio thing.
Yeah.
As soon as I hear that noise, it's like, oh, who the hell has left that phone on? I'm gonna punch them.
So it's really weird watching a TV episode when it has that happen because you're like, wait, what's that coming from? It's like,
I instantly reach for my phone. It's like, hang on, I'm not doing anything.
Not that your phone's probably ever interfered with the audio playback of the TV before.
It hasn't, but I hear that noise and I go to my phone.
You think something's wrong, yeah. And I thought that was important at the time, but it wasn't apparent yet, and obviously it comes back later, but I'm pointing out, since we're there in the story, I'm pointing out that it happened, we're acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And this is when, I think they mention it offhand, like I think Sonia mentions it when she's talking about the company, but they mention that their primary thing this company does is horror games.
Yes.
And they even uses the phrase survival horror, at which point I'm rubbing my hands, I'm like, okay,
I can sense that.
We're in my wheelhouse now, this is my genre.
Yeah.
And they're like...
It's the VR, like the AR thing they show us here at this tech demo. It's not a million miles ahead of where we're at the minute.
No, the whole idea of it being actually in our heads is obviously the far-fetched bit, but we have AR, it's, maybe doesn't look as good as that.
It's a combination of current AR and VR, I think.
Yeah. And, yeah, so it's not, like, super ridiculous, but they say, alright, so that was all it was, but we can do some more. We can, you can go into this more vigor advanced beta test. She calls it a beta, which I hate.
I do as well.
I hate. And I'm pretty sure that's the British way you're meant to say it. And beta is the American way, but I don't care. Beta sounds better.
Yeah, but it's Greek, so...
Yeah, that's true. But it's always English people. It's always English. It's not even Scottish people. It's always English people who say beta.
I'm not even going to dispute that. I'm not going to dispute that, but I don't say it. I say beta.
Good.
I know better. I'm educated. Thank you very much.
But yeah, so they're like, okay, we're going to upload this other game into you, and we're going to put you in this close by mansion, which he even comments is from one of their games. Like they base one of the mansions in their video game off of this real mansion that's sort of close by to this bigger castle that they're in.
As well.
Yeah, and it's all sort of set up to just be like an old looking house. There's no TV, no internet, nothing. It's just some books you can read if you want. But the whole idea is that this game will create stuff based on what your mind works like. So it'll create scary things that will scare you because it's you.
Yeah.
So it bases the scary stuff on what you're afraid of. And this is where I first like, okay, right, I see where this is going. Right, I see, well, at least to a point. I didn't guess everything, but
Anyone who
yeah.
guessed everything, you're either a liar or you're
Yeah.
very impressive.
But in terms of the Black Mirror message, I was okay, right. This is about him facing his fear because he's running from his mother. You know, this
Yeah.
is what this is about. And ultimately, one way or another, at the end of this scary thing, that's what he's going to see. It's going to be something to do with his mother, and he's going to be like, oh crap. And the funny thing is the first episode. Now, if you're watching the episodes out of order and you're watching this review without watching the first one, I won't overly spoil the first one, right? I'm going to stay away from plot details, but I will say this: the first one was so much light-hearted compared to this, and this one starts off fairly light-hearted because there's no like dark, sinister things going on for the first half. That it lulled me into a false sense of security where I was expecting a very specific ending.
Yeah. This instead, it's Black Mirror has always had its own kind of sense of horror, but it's less.
Yeah.
It's not horror in the traditional sense. It's more the fear of what could happen if we're not careful. It's like warning messages. Whereas this was straight up like, nah, this is a horror movie.
Yeah, yeah. At the same time, though, it's like the actual horror movie stuff they do for the most part isn't actually supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be kind of funny. And he himself, because like a spider comes in and he's scared at first, and then he realizes it's not
At which
real.
point my girlfriend ran out of the room.
Oh, really?
She was like, oh, there's a small one. She's covering her eyes. I was like, nah, there's gonna be a bigger one. You should just go. She's like, yeah, I'm going. And she ran away.
Yeah, a bigger one with a face, with a man's face, an old bully from school that he mentioned at one point.
I loved that moment though, because like you say, it plays on the horror tropes. Because he's there in the cupboard, and you go, "Oh, that's the jump scare there," and he comments on it as well. He goes, "Oh, it's going to be there behind the door," and then there's the shadow and the hat, and then boom, that thing just comes out the wall.
Yeah, yeah. But it's so over the top and ridiculous that as soon as he sees that it's got a face, he sort of calms down. It's like, oh, this is just stupid because it's a face
Yeah.
on a spider. It's disgusting, but it's obviously not real. And and it's funny because when it started playing with my expectations, it's when Sonya showed up, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, he's going to touch her, and he's going to feel her, right? And that's
Yeah.
going to be the thing here, and that was kind of obvious, and he did that, and then it became right. Okay, it was her idea to do this, so she's either like working for the company, and she was like a plant to lure people into this. And this makes it feel more real because it's someone he knew before he came here, and like the idea of really building this sense of terror. If that's the point of what this whole thing is, turned out it wasn't, but that was one possibility at the time. That was when my head was sort of spinning.
I will say, when his bank was first emptied, I initially thought it was her that
Yeah.
she'd done. Like that was what my mind first went to. So that I completely bought her at this point. For a second, when she comes in and goes, and she goes, I cloned your card. It's like, okay, I buy that.
Yeah. And she's talking about, oh, there's these people going missing, it's all tourists who come and do this thing and they've all went missing. And you're like, and honestly, after the ending, that sounds kind of the most plausible one, actually, even though she wasn't really there.
Yeah. I wonder if, because obviously, this one was created by his head, right?
Yeah.
She was, and we kind of figured that already at the point. I wonder if it was information that he'd seen in his subconscious, like he'd seen people going missing, like in a news story at some point, and his subconscious had thrown it in there.
I wonder if you go back and watch it again, if there is something else, like a clue at one point. Like there's
Something
just
earlier in the real section.
just in the background, just something small that would give you that connection.
That'd be nice.
Maybe.
Just something he saw but didn't consciously know he'd seen.
But of course, he even gets stabbed. He feels a stabbing, but then it all disappears, and he's like freaking out at this point because like I felt that, and of course that like Katie over the mic, she's kind of because she's got an earpiece in. I should mention that's why he's getting contacted here, and she's like, oh, it must be doing more than it's supposed to, and it's actually creating a sensational feeling. And I'm like, right, is this part of the thing? Are they trying to trick him? Is she just saying that? And she knew it was going to do that, and they're testing it.
Because that's the thing, they're all playing it as a test, and you
Yeah.
could just go, well, this could be just a blind test, and we're just trying to see his reaction when he's not expecting something.
So this is the thing. When it got to this point in the episode, my mind was constantly like trying to
Guess ahead.
as to what was really going on, and there was a lot of times that I did, and obviously when it gets to the point where he's at the door and he's going in, He's like, my mother's going to be in there because it's, and even he's predicting it's going to be something to do with his mother. Like he gets to that point, he understands that.
It's coming from his mind. That's
Yeah.
what he's been fixated on lately.
And he goes in, and he, like, there's nothing there, but he starts freaking out again, and it starts making him forget things. Like Katie starts asking him questions, like, who was the girl? What does your mother look like? And he can't answer it. And he eventually, like, he starts to forget things, and it's almost like, oh, he's also afraid of becoming like his father and like having Alzheimer's.
It's also because early onset Alzheimer's can be hereditary as well.
Yeah.
So he can have that fear. Because I'm assuming he would know that doctors would have told him. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because my father had MS before he passed away. And I remember just this weird sense of relief when I was young and I was told, oh, that's not hereditary. I'm like, oh. Good. Like, and that sounds really mean to say almost, but like there is that genuine feeling like if your parents have a disease that
Oh yeah, I get it.
you worry that, oh wait, is that something I can get to? You know, like you know, obviously you could get it too, but like is it something I'm likely to get because they have it? You know, and that, you know, so I get that even though I never really had that fear because I was immediately told no, it's not, but I get it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, so he's freaking out. So they come in, and this is where they're making you believe it's ending because Katie rushes in with some people who are stopping him from cutting out the back of his neck. Which, by the way, very reminiscent of the end of episode 3 of season 1, the entire history of you. Very reminiscent of the end of that, in the sense of what he's about to do.
Yeah.
But they come in and they strap him down. Okay, I'm trying to get it out, and so on. And he's like freaking out more. And I'm already thinking, right, they're going to do an all fake out. This is not really them coming in. This is not really the end of it. And then he wakes up in the chair where you put this thing on in the sort of the head guy's office, the Japanese guy, and he gets up and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, that was a bit more intense than it was meant to be, and that was only 1 second." And you're like, okay. Part of me's thinking, okay, they might fake it out again, but I feel like they've already done it, so maybe not. And because of the last episode and because of where I'm thinking this is going, I'm thinking this is going to end with him finally confronting his mother and we'll get the end of his story. I don't even think we'd necessarily see it. I mean, it could have ended with him just getting in the door. Like, he's made the decision, that's all we need.
Yeah, he's made the choice that he will talk to her.
That's his arc,
That's it, yeah. That would have really been enough.
That would have been it. But we see him go home. He goes in his house and he goes up and his mother seems to be forgetting things like his father was, and she has to call him, and then you hear the noise again. You hear the do.
And then you just go, you get chills.
And it's like, oh no. And it cuts back the first time he put it on in that white room where he was about to do the guacamole, and like he's just like having a seizure. He's screaming out mom. And it cuts ahead, and we see, you know, the Japanese like owner or the head of the company or whatever, and Katie, and she's talking about how his phone went off and interrupted signal. And
it was something they knew about, which was why they turned the phone off in the first place.
Yeah, and he kind of did this to himself, and it's like we see them zip up the body bag. He's dead, and it's like great, thanks for that. I was hoping he'd work it out. I rooted for him. They made me like him. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, like that's why this ending, while it is a fake out, it's so impressive because it, like you say, this could have ended with him going into like just at the door and saying, "Oh, we're going to touch some." That would have been satisfying. Like it wouldn't have felt like we'd lost something.
No, it wouldn't. No.
So the fact.
Yeah, I mean, because now I'm like, so we'll go back to what the episode really is about and what it means. Obviously, it is about him running from his problems and not facing his fears. But what does this ending then sort of imply? Like, part of me was thinking, is this kind of like the thing where if you constantly fear something, it might just happen? You know, that kind of idea. Not that he's specifically fearing just getting a seizure and dying, but he's fearing becoming like his dad. He's fearing getting a disease, and he fears that he won't have the courage to talk to his mum again, and now he won't.
Yeah.
That's gone now. He's dead. Like, and it's...
There's also the idea that all of this, which presumably, because obviously we see him spend most of the night in the house and then he comes out, right?
Yes.
Now, at this point, it cuts to him going at his mum. I don't know if it was implying that it was like a dreamlike cut, like where you're just there, or if he actually physically felt like he traveled.
Hmm.
Because if he felt like he traveled, that's an extra couple of days, and all of this was what was it, 0.04 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, because it's a really cynical ending actually, where I almost wonder if there's also a little bit of a statement about big business. He's not seeing people as humans because the way they just sort of brush it off, like, oh well, this one lasted this long. This is why it crashed.
Yeah,
Shouted mum, and it just fades to black, and that's the end of the episode. It's like, well, that
yeah.
was cold.
And there's also the classic, like the Black Mirror has the fear of technology
Mm.
almost, and obviously this is warning you: pay attention to reality. Don't get too caught up in virtual worlds because it could kill you, and you could miss your chance for things in real life.
Pay attention to the real people in your life, and not, you know,
Yeah,
which is almost a weird statement to make about this. I mean, because as much as he's avoiding like the real person in his life, and he's going off in flight of fancy, he doesn't seek out fake stuff either. Like he's not,
he doesn't know.
if anything, like you could argue that Sonia is like the fake thing. Not that she's fake, but in the sense that he's finding someone who's like doesn't mean anything
She's
to
just
him.
a distraction.
Yeah, it's a fling in another country. He's not going to meet her again. There's no pressure. It's just an adventure, if you will.
Yeah,
And he's avoiding real life. He's avoiding home, and he's avoiding all this stuff, and that can be dangerous. And then it takes it literally, where they put him in this real flight of fancy, and it kills him.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Man, this was so good,
this was a really good episode. You know what? 2 episodes in,
and it was so fantastically directed.
yeah, it was. It was good. Actually, well, something I want to mention. Uh, I didn't mention it in the first episode, but I want to talk about aspect ratios just for a minute because
Of course you do.
not only were both this and the last episode not 16:9, the last one and this one were both different. They both had different ratios, and they were both weird ratios as well.
Netflix does this.
Yeah, but even the other ones, like, I can kind of like. I can say that Netflix. I can say that House of Cards and Stranger Things had the same ratio. They were both, I think, about 2.00 to 1. And I'm just sort of making a rough guess based on
Yeah.
what I'm used to seeing the shapes, right? The last episode, Nosedive, was not quite as wide as that. The black bars were thinner. So that was like 1.90 to 1, 1.95 to 1, something in that realm, right? This one was wider than like Stranger Things, but it wasn't as wide as like a movie is when it has black bars, 2.35, 2.40. This was more about 2.20 to 1. And I know this probably sounds like really boring and technical to people who don't care about this stuff, but I just think it's really interesting, like, when they're making Black Mirror and they're saying, right, what do you want to shoot in? What? Because presumably they have the choice. If they're letting them do different things like this, then presumably the director or whoever's running it, maybe
Could be a producer choice, I suppose.
Charlie Brooker himself, maybe even, like, I don't know, cinematographer, maybe whoever's making the choice, they clearly have this option.
They have freedom, yeah.
Yeah, they have this freedom to pick something. So I almost want to talk to them and just be like, so what about this episode made you pick this ratio? Because even if, like, I'm someone who's trained to make stuff, and I've often thought about what I would do with a movie and things like that, I would never go for a weird ratio. Like, I would probably just go for the typical 2.40 to 1. I like that ratio.
I almost think that they might intentionally have a different one for every episode just to give you that feeling of unsettlingness. Like,
Maybe
just
that's it, yeah.
because you look at it and you don't. Most people won't consciously think about it. They might not even notice, but something's just off to how you normally see it.
Yeah, it's a slightly different shape to normal. And yeah, most people won't notice it. And even if they do notice those black bars, they're like, whatever. Whereas I'm the guy who sits and goes, well, that's a bold choice.
Well, yeah, but we're going, oh yeah, but even if they don't physically notice it or even notice it's black bars, something about it will just not quite look the same as everything else they watch. So it'll always feel a little bit off.
That said, though, if all 6 have different ratios, then they're going to run out of options.
They are. Maybe they'll just like flip between 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, but it's an interesting choice. Like, other than try to be unsettling, I can't think of a reason specifically for this ratio. Like, why would you go for this over just 2.35 or 2.0? Like, why this weird one in between?
Yeah, I have no idea. That's the only reason I can think of, which I think is a real possible reason.
Honestly, yeah, I think it's the only one that makes any sense, because when you're dealing with movies, and most are 2.40 now, and some are still 1.85 if they want to be. And 1.85 is basically 16:9. It's like a smidge wider, but that's like the two ratios that movies tend to get made in, right? And these days it's mostly the wider one. And the odd reason why you hear that someone doesn't use the wide one, because most directors prefer it, is I know Steven Spielberg didn't like the wide one for Jurassic Park because his argument was it made the dinosaurs feel taller if the screen wasn't as wide. Like, that was his reason. And that's a really big example where something really obvious to point to, but I find it interesting.
There's a solid creative choice behind the decision.
Because even Jurassic World, funnily enough, had like a weird 2.0 ratio. And I didn't even realise that at the movies, because at the movies, it's harder to tell because it just goes, like, it'll always fill the same height, so it's harder to tell the difference when it's that small.
Yeah.
But on a TV I can see like the small black bars, and I'm like, oh right, it's actually a little bit wider. And that surprised me when I put in the Blu-ray for the first time, and I'm like, oh, interesting. But again, they didn't go full wide, like most movies do. They, made a choice because they thought, no, the dinosaurs need to be tall looking, and this will make it feel a bit taller without sacrificing as much, so yeah, that ended up in a proper 5-minute discussion on aspect ratios. I apologise if you hated that with every fibre of your being. I promise I won't do that for the rest of the episodes. I just had to do it once. I had to.
That said, if they are all different, we might have to mention it again.
Well, yeah, but it'll be more brief. But the actual discussion of why they're doing it, we just had there. So
yeah, we'll just refer you back to this one.
Yeah, because I know some people just zone out when I start talking about screen sizes and stuff. But
yeah, did you catch who directed this one?
I can tell you,
because they had a whole list of people.
Yeah, it was Dan Trachtenberg.
Makes sense why this was the full-on horror one then.
Yeah, he did 10 Cloverfield Lane, of course, if you're unfamiliar with him.
Yeah. And
apologies for my white flickering screen. When I put up the white web page, everything goes white. Kind of like that room in Black Mirror.
Oh, it's white.
Yeah, actually, there was this is a point of contention almost, but I like watching things in the dark. I like making even TV shows, especially ones like this that feel very cinematic. I like to give it the full treatment. I'm watching it with surround sound. Some of the sound effects, by the way, when he's in the haunted mansion, as it were quite good. Surround you.
Aye.
But one point of contention is sometimes when a movie or show will cut to a bright white full screen when it's been kind of dark before, it hurts.
It does. And also, your eyes have to adjust. It's almost like, I wish I had a little lamp on this whole time, just so that it kind of neutralised it a bit.
Yeah, well, that's why TV backlights are a thing these days. It neutralises everything for you.
Yeah.
But I like having the lights off because I like just seeing the floating rectangle of the image, and that's it.
Oh, I agree.
So, it does make you sleepy though if you're tired. That's a point of note.
That can be a positive.
It can be if you try to get sleep, and that's true. So yeah, that is the last 10 minutes of that was purely technical. I do apologise, but in case you can't tell, we really enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, it was very good, and not at all what I was expecting.
And it was very different from I think most of the episodes so far.
Yeah, it probably stands out more than any other Black Mirror episode, other than maybe the first one.
Yeah. Now, season 3 is off to a great start. I've already heard from a couple of people. One of our commenters, in fact, on the first episode, are particularly excited about us getting to episode 3.
Well, we've only got another day to wait.
Yeah, we'll have episode 3 up sometime tomorrow, within 24 hours from now. So thank you very much for watching, and let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. And remember, we're doing these daily, so we should have the last one up on Wednesday. So we'll be one per day till Wednesday. So, and if you're looking for any of our other reviews, some of them are getting all knocked around a little bit because Black Mirror's kind of interrupted everything. Plus, there's a new show starting late tonight that on BBC America that we're supposed to be doing. So that'll be sometime tomorrow. We're very busy. Netflix ruins our plans every time they unleash one of these.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Like, this isn't quite as bad as like Luke Cage, but my God, every time they're just like, we're gonna drop everything and fit this in now.
Because that was
such a neatly organised schedule that we have.
Yeah, I know. It messes everything up. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Once again, keep watching TV. We'll see you next time.